Hi, I'm Pastor Kurt, and this is your 5-minute Bible study. Today, we're going to look at Acts 28, verses 11 through 31. This is the end of the book of Acts. So, in the previous video, I talked about how Paul was on his way to appeal his case to the emperor. He's on his way to Rome. Well, now he has arrived. He's in Rome, and he meets some Jewish leaders there. And they're kind of surprised that Paul is here because they haven't heard any word that he's coming. They didn't know why he was there. So Paul tells his story. He tells about being arrested. He tells about these false charges that were brought against him. He tells about how he was telling people about Jesus and they didn't want to hear about him. And he tells about appealing his case to the emperor. He tells his whole story to these people who are very surprised that he's there. And they have mixed reactions to what he's saying. Some of them are interested in what Paul has to say about Jesus. Others of them are not so interested. There's a wonderful verse 24 in this chapter, that says some of them were convinced by what he said, while others refused to believe. I think that's a fantastic verse for all of us. When you tell people about Jesus, some people will be convinced by what you say, and others will refuse to believe. That's just the way it works. This is how it was for Paul, right? Not everybody who listened to Paul bought his message. They didn't automatically listen and accept what he was saying about Jesus. That happened for Paul. That happens for us. So he tells these people about Jesus. Some want to hear more. Some want him to shut up. It's just the way it happens. But then what about the emperor? Right? Paul is there in Rome to plead his case to the emperor. But that's where the book stops. We hear nothing about Paul going before the emperor. In a way, it feels like a very abrupt ending. It's like everything has been leading up to this moment with Paul pleading his case to the emperor. That's supposed to be like the big climactic moment of the story, but we don't get it. The text doesn't tell us. And it can be very, very frustrating for us as modern readers. So what do we do? What do we do with this ending of the book of Acts? Paul is in Rome. He's telling people about Jesus. And the final verse of the book says something like, he continued to tell people about Jesus with all boldness and without hindrance. That's where it ends. But in a way, it's not really that abrupt of an ending after all. Because think all the way back to the beginning of Acts. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. There at the beginning, Jesus told his disciples that they would be his witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And those areas are how we see the gospel spread in the book of Acts. It starts in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and then spreads to the ends of the earth, which for them was Rome. Think about what they knew of world geography at that time, right? They didn't know about the Americas or anything like that. For them, kind of like the edge of the world was Rome. And now the gospel has made its way to Rome. Paul has brought it there. And so in a way, the book can end on this note. Yes, it's frustrating for us that we don't hear about the scene with the emperor. But in a way, it's okay. Because Paul making his way to Rome to appeal to the emperor is really just a way to get to Rome. Now that Paul is in Rome, the book can end. But the story does not end, because the story continues with us. You and I continue to tell people about Jesus. We continue to be Jesus's witnesses to the ends of the earth. Now, that doesn't mean that you or I have to travel to the ends of the earth, but it means that the good news is spread to the ends of the earth. The good news about Jesus is spread everywhere around the world. For us, for you and me, we share it in the context where we are. If you travel and tell people about Jesus, great. But if you just stay in your hometown, if you just stay in your home and you tell people about Jesus, that's great too. For example, if you are helping your family members to know about Jesus and grow in faith, that's fantastic. You are sharing the good news of Jesus with them, and you are being like Paul. Sometimes we think that missionaries have to travel around the world, and some of them do, which is great. But all of us are called to share the good news of Jesus with others wherever we might find ourselves. And when you do that where you are, then you are being a missionary too, and you are continuing the story of the good news spreading around the world. The story that started in the Gospels and continued through Acts now continues in our own lives. There's your 5-minute Bible study. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.